I'm Joseph.
And I'm Nick.
This is Fish Jelly.
Ah, yes.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Well, we need to address the elephant in the room.
Okay.
I almost did an emergency podcast yesterday
Oh, boy.
because
Okay.
I was bombarded with messages regarding a Jamita.
Demita.
Well, I'm going to call her Jamita Jackson because she's on one. Janet Demita Jo Jackson gave an interview with The Guardian.
Mm-hmm.
She was asked how she felt about America being on the verge of voting in its first black female president.
Uh-huh.
And my girl said, well, you know what they supposedly said? She's not black. That's what I heard, that she's Indian. She goes on to say, her father's white. That's what I was told. I mean, I haven't watched the news in a few days. I was told that they discovered her father was white. Okay, clearly she's misinformed, and it's embarrassing.
Everybody says things that are incorrect.
And the fact that she said I hadn't watched the news in a few days is even more ignorant because, mama, like, you don't need to have watched the news for a few days to realize that what you just said doesn't make any damn sense. So, I mean, it's embarrassing. It's disappointing. It's ignorant, irresponsible, especially for someone who has such a big plot. Like, anything she says is going to be on the internet.
But she's so rarely asked about anything like that.
I don't want to make excuses. I don't want to make excuses for her. So she, through her manager, did release a statement that said, in part, she deeply respects Vice President Kamala Harris and her accomplishments as a Black and Indian woman.
Yes,
Janet apologizes for any confusion caused and acknowledges the importance of accurate representation in public discourse. We appreciate the opportunity to address this and will remain committed to promoting unity. I mean,
she wrote that, but okay.
No, she didn't. And I, you know, again, it's just unfortunate because we all say crazy shit, but most of us don't have a platform, you know, that it has much reach. So, and a clip of her last month went viral of her, or was it end of July? Like 6 weeks ago, whatever, about her saying, don't ask me any questions. I don't like answering, like I don't like talking.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, if I have to slightly defend her, I mean, she has acknowledged that she is not the best at speaking. She doesn't like answering questions. She hasn't been known for being as outspoken. When you think about, you think about pop stars at her level. Someone like a Madonna is very outspoken, right?
Janet's like Switzerland.
And Janet's always been kind of like, the master of playing coy and, not telling the truth about things. And, so I liken her to kind of like a Mariah Carey, who's a little more flamboyant, but she's still really good at like ducking.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they caught her slipping. I'm sure she was not expecting to answer that, even though it seems like a very reasonable question as a very prominent Black American woman that you would be asked about.
Well, or that
the likelihood that we're going to have a Black female president.
It would be assumed that she has a strong opinion about it, right?
But Kamala's not new. Kamala has been your vice president for damn near 4 years. So I don't know why you like how you're acting like she's like this person you've never heard of.
Well, to her, like her days maybe are years. With the last time she watched the news, then
right, this person's in a different stratosphere. And I would, again, not trying to defend my girl, but if we think about our own loved ones and like, if you ask my mom questions about politics, and she's probably gonna say some wild things.
Oh yeah,
because she's just not.
It's going to be informed usually by whatever nonsense that people are. Consuming.
Well, yeah, so like she watches a lot of Telemundo and a lot of Univision Noticias, which are, strangely, well, I mean, not strange. I think we realize that there are a lot of conservative Latinos in this country, but which is fine. But a lot of that rhetoric on the news that she watches is like fear mongering. So every time I go to her house and the news is on, like I can hear that they're talking about like someone was like, it's just a lot of like fear-based storytelling on the news. So
it has been for a long time.
But, the point of all of that is just to say that I think that it's unfortunate that someone with that much reach.
Yeah, but
she should have she should have just kept it generic and said, "I'm proud of her accomplishments," or like
Everybody go vote.
and just bring it all back to like everyone needs to exercise their right to vote or something. So I'm more sort of disappointed that she was caught off guard and answered that question in such a crazy ass way. Like, and then also your brother was the butt of a joke about whether he's black or white for a long time. Yeah. So it just seems kind of weird that she wouldn't recognize that this is something that she should tread lightly with. And
well, I think she knows now. So.
But yeah.
Kamala's campaign is still taking donations, Janet.
Yeah, Janet needs to hop on her Instagram and tell everyone to donate as she's going to do. But moving on, so we're going to do something cool. We are on Wednesday, October 16th.
Oh, yeah.
At 7 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
We are going to be at the Philosophical Research Society to participate in a roundtable discussion after the screening of the documentary Scream Queen, My Nightmare on Elm Street. So the Philosophical Research Society is this really cool space in Los Feliz. And if you're in LA and you are interested in meeting us and would also like to visit a cool space, I would recommend coming because the space, they have a bookstore that it's all about like new age type stuff. Like they have like tarot cards, and it's just a really interesting space. And they have a pretty nice big theater that holds, I think, like 250 people.
Well, this will be my first time.
It'll be your first time going. I attended their last. So the event is called Queer Diaspora. And it's hosted by a filmmaker named Gregorio Davila. He's directed some award-winning documentaries. Mm-hmm. And the last time, his first event, they screened The Celluloid Closet. So I attended that. And then we were invited to participate in this one. And we are going to be doing it with Matt and Tim from the podcast Happy Horror Time. And they are experts in horror, and they apparently love this documentary. And the film it's based on, which is A Nightmare on Elm Street 2, and how that movie is basically like a gay-ass movie.
Right.
So I'll post more about it once the invite has been updated. But yeah, if people want to meet us, we'll be there. We'll be there a little early, and of course, we'll be there after the screening to talk. But again, it's on Wednesday, October 16th. Tickets I think they're under like $13. So hopefully that's affordable. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think it's a mere pittance to get the chance to meet us and also visit this cool space and participate in the conversation. And
it'll be very intellectual indeed.
Yeah. Okay. Next. I don't even want to talk about Sean Combs, but of course he was taken into federal custody for a number of things like racketeering, sex crimes. After I saw that video of him assaulting Cassie at the Intercontinental in Century City, like throw the book at his ass. I mean, I don't know what his defense is going to be. All these memes and of the 1,000 bottles of baby oil and lube, and
yeah, I've seen all that.
They've been talking about his freaky ass for a long time. To me, he's very R. Kelly-ish. Except that I'm assuming no minor, like the talk of minors was never a part of the conversation. But still, like, it's one thing to be a freak. I know a lot of those. But to be, like, to infringe on people's, like,
well, I mean, we have to remember that
safety and
be consensual,
and and their consent and like violence and intimidation and all that crazy shit just because you have money and
money is corrupt, power is corrupting.
So they can throw the book at his ass. I don't care.
I feel like they will.
Something more light. Halle Berry showed up at one of the Never Let Go screenings wearing the call wig, kind of mocking the fact that she knows that y'all think I always look crazy in these movies. which is true.
She showed up at the screening I was at. Not in that
She
weekend.
showed up at your screening and she looked lovely and she had nice hair. But no, she showed up at a separate screening with the call. And I have to tell people, the call, if you want a fun double movie night of something kind of out of control, I would recommend pizza and alcohol and friends, and get comfortable and watch back to back Halle Berry in The Call and Halle Berry in Kidnap.
Yeah. Oh my God.
It's a good time.
Yeah.
Lastly, in this section, I wanted to just call out all of y'all who like to announce on Instagram that you're leaving Instagram to simply return a week later. What is the point? I don't think you don't need to tell us.
No, we don't even know.
Because we are not going to know that you.
Like Madonna said, the power of goodbye. Sometimes it's an Irish goodbye, so just leave.
And then a lot of times the people who leave, it's like, oh, this is too stressful. Yeah, because you post a lot of like, the energy you put out there is the energy you get back.
Yes.
Like if you keep it light and just share things you like, or try, I try to share things that make me laugh. So that's the energy I bring. So what I get back is a lot of people being shady and silly and funny. Mm-hmm. And that's why I like Instagram. Because it's just mostly, and you know this, when I'm on my phone on Instagram, what am I doing? Laughing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So
to me, there's nothing more calming than reading a book. Turn your phone off.
But yeah, for the people who get stressed out, it's like you're also posting stuff that like, and I'm just referring to the people I noticed in the past couple of weeks who have made the announcement that they're leaving and then they come back like a week later. It's like, well, you also post a lot of stuff that would garner like people sort of maybe questioning you or maybe attacking you about your opinions.
Hey, when you stare into the abyss stares back into you, okay?
And then they come back and just continue posting the same shit. Yeah. Like, it's not going to change. Okay, the restaurant section. So for quite some time now, I've been told about a restaurant called Salsa and Beer. And then people have actually, since we've started talking about restaurants, have recommended it. So we went last Tuesday, mm-hmm. And I posted about it on my Instagram and got so many messages from people who live in SoCal, mm-hmm. talking about like how it's one of their favorite restaurants. What did you think about Salsa and Beer in North Hollywood? They have several locations. We went to the North Hollywood one.
Well, the surrounding area is not pretty. And the parking situation is out of control. I will not wait in line for people to stop eating so I can park. So that was annoying, but the food was good. Yeah.
I agree that it's probably not the place, like if you're, like if your parents come into town, I'm not going to be like, let's take them to Salsa and Beer because it's not a nice place to drive.
During the week, yes.
Yeah, like it just isn't a cute, like where you have to park and the walk there. It's just not a good start to a nice meal. And then I will say, I thought the service was excellent.
It was. They were very attentive.
Super 5-star. Yes. Could not say better things about the service.
The portion size, out of control.
Oh, Make America Great Again portions.
Oh my God. That torta I got, that was torta on steroids. And the flavor was great. And I had it also for lunch the next day. But
talk about how heavy so I ordered a burrito.
And you ate maybe
and how heavy were my leftovers? You were like, damn, this bag is heavy.
We had to stack the leftovers. But I mean, we have a weight problem in America, and that would be why nobody needs to eat that much in one sitting.
And I need to shade Yard House for their, like a 9-ounce pour being, $23.99 for some old cheap ass red wine.
For some Carlo Rossi you got in the back there, okay.
And then good old Salsa and Beer, my wine was $7.99. And that was like a 12-ounce pour. They filled that glass up.
The prices were good. I did appreciate, I think this is the first Mexican restaurant I can remember in a long time where what comes with, ironically, because the name of the restaurant, what comes with the chips is
right.
not salsa. But actually very flavorful beans.
Very tasty, spicy, refried beans with cheese.
Mm-hmm.
But then people were like, they will give you salsa if you ask for it.
I'm sure, but it's just
But like the chips were fresh. The dip was dipping. the portions were great. The food was very flavorful. I had a shredded beef burrito, and with like it was spicy shredded beef, and the burrito had all the fixings minus beans and rice, but it had everything else in it with potatoes, and then the biggest plate you could carry filled with beans and rice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I had so many leftovers that I only ate half of my leftovers the next day.
Yeah, I think you got 3 meals out of that.
Yeah, which
I mean, I don't know.
that's not always the goal when we go out to eat is I want leftovers, but it is a nice side effect.
It's a nice side effect.
If I liked my food.
As I get older, too, I don't like feeling uncomfortable after eating. I don't like to feel ill. And it doesn't take much to get that feeling.
No, but I think it's a good practice since we eat out so much to, I mean, the problem sometimes is that we are often headed somewhere after dinner.
Yeah.
So then I feel like, well, I can't take leftovers if I'm going to a movie. So then sometimes I feel like I eat too much. But anyway, salsa and beer, I would definitely go back when I'm feeling real hungry.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, then we are often at the AMC Theater in Burbank, which is across from the Americana, that big shopping mall. And so there are a lot of restaurants around there. And we've tried many of them, and they're all very touristy, like overpriced, not a lot of care is taken in the like the quality of the food, it seems, because they know they're just going to be busy, so why bother?
Mm-hmm.
So there was one restaurant in particular that I had avoided because I thought this is going to be the epitome of shitty, like high traffic restaurants, and it's called Finney's Burbank. But in actuality, face crack, I quite enjoyed my food. And I thought the service was lovely.
Yeah.
The prices weren't ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say of all the restaurants that we've tried in that area, that would probably be the one that I would say. Now, granted, they serve like pub food, so you're not going to get like healthier choices.
No, but they have pizza and burgers and
yeah, like standard like pub fare. But I thought that it was I was pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, I enjoyed I think I had a fried chicken sandwich.
And then last week we talked about trying to find recommendations for Indian restaurants, and we just like how we bought our last 2 houses without the help of our real estate agent. We found them on our own. We found an Indian restaurant on our own in Beverly Hills called Electric Karma.
Yes.
And I really enjoyed it.
I did too, yes.
It's really cute. We walked in and it was, what, like a Friday night?
No.
Thursday night?
Maybe Thursday.
Okay, so it was Thursday night, but it was dinner time.
Oh, yeah, because it was after we saw Saoirse Ronan. Mm-hmm.
That's right, yes. And we were the only people in the restaurant. The server was really nice. The restaurant is really cute, Electric Karma, and they have a really cute outdoor patio area where you can sit like on low cushions that I think would be really cute for like a date or to have like, dinner with friends. And we ordered, they have like they had a few options for like dinners for 2.
Mm-hmm.
So we chose one.
The Four Seasons.
That's what it was called?
Yes.
The Four Seasons. It was $70. And I thought the food, that was probably the best Indian food I've had in recent memory.
Yes. Wherever I always try to find like the beer that is specific to the
you do like to try new beers,
culture. I really like that Taj Mahal beer.
Your beer was nice, and then they served me something that was called it had a cute name, but it tasted maybe like a pina colada.
Yeah, it tasted like a mango dessert.
But like, really well, because the ingredients were like some kind of like coconut rum or something with mango and yogurt. So it was very like creamy.
Was it called a Punjabi mango or something?
Oh, maybe it was a Punjabi mango something. And at first I didn't want that, but then the server he was nice and he recommended it. So I felt bad saying, no, I don't want that. Mm-hmm. But it was very tasty. I would definitely go there again. Mm-hmm. And we had quite a few leftovers. Yes. So, yeah. Good choice.
Yes.
Films released we didn't cover. All Shall Be Well.
This is a Strand releasing film about 2 older Asian lesbians. And I think one of them has medical problems. And, because of that, the other one doesn't have access because of family meddling, which sounds very much like a Barbara Sikova film recently, 2 of Us. or any number of films with people of any kind of orientation having to deal with this, but directed by Ray Young.
A Different Man. You've seen
I
this.
saw this in Berlin, so I reviewed it, and
Wait, did you see it in...
I saw it in Berlin.
Weren't you watching... Isn't this about a man who has like a facial deformity?
Yeah.
Didn't you watch a movie at home not too long ago about a man who looked just like that?
It's the same actor in it. It's also directed by Aaron Schimberg. And Jess Wexler is in that one. That was a lot of fun. Chain of Life.
Anyway, you saw A Different Man in Berlin,
where Sebastian Stan won Best Actor. I don't believe that was deserved, but we are seeing this. We're seeing a screening where Stan will be giving a Q&A after next week.
Wait, but this is a film release we didn't cover, but we're going to watch it next week?
Yeah, that was in the invite that I said the publicist was clear that. Anyway.
Oh, that this is like the film had already been released.
Yes.
But we're going to review it.
Yes.
The Featherweight.
Guess what this is about? Boxing.
It's about pillows.
I can see your dirty pillows, Rocky. Robert Kolodny is the director. I think I saw a couple very positive reviews about this, but I have not seen it.
In the Summers.
I think this won an award out of Sundance this year, which is where I saw it. Alessandra Lacorazza Samudio directed it, and it's about two sisters and their experiences growing up with, a dysfunctional dad. One of them becomes trans, and that's all I remember from it. I remember it felt very Sundance-y, but with some things that make it worth the watch.
A Mistake.
I like Elizabeth Banks. I think if we had had more time to watch this, I would have wanted to. It's directed by Christine Jeffs, who I remember seeing her Sunshine Queen film with Amy Adams and Emily Blunt years ago now. But this is about, I think she's a nurse or nurse practitioner. She's somewhere in the medical field and something bad happens, but that came out.
Omniloop.
Bernardo Brito directed this, and I think it sounds very Everything Everywhere All at Once-y, where this woman discovers how to time travel and make mistakes in her past life, played by Mary Louise Parker. So I don't know how interested I am in that.
The Shade.
Oh, yes, darling. This is directed by someone named Tyler Chipman, and the poster art and the description sound like I might want to catch up with this at some point, but I think it's somebody's older brother is slipping into some kind of peculiar darkness.
Universal Language.
I saw this at Cannes. It's directed by Matthew Rankin, who's kind of an idiosyncratic Canadian director. I wasn't necessarily even in the mood when I watched this, but it is very strange and interesting. And it's set in Winnipeg, I believe, but in a Winnipeg that has been established by a community of Iranians. It is really odd, and there's lots of very Canadian specific jokes, like Tim Hortons. There's big Tim Hortons bit in this. I would recommend it, but it is very strange.
Lastly, Wolves, which I know you saw in Venice,
and I did not like. But before,
oh yeah, because Nick made a video about the best and worst of Venice. If people haven't watched it,
we made a video.
Oh, are you acknowledging my efforts?
It's all because of you, baby. Anyway.
I don't believe that, but thank you.
Well, I have some small contributions, my Christopher Lambert voice. Wolves did not enjoy. I thought it was very lackluster, but Apple TV Plus is releasing in theaters, and I think next week it lands on their streaming service. That reminds me, I wonder if I would screen. I didn't know if you were interested in watching this. Wolves.
No.
Okay.
I meant to mention this in the first section, but we acquired a lot of new subscribers because of our Blink Twice YouTube review.
Really?
So I wanted to say welcome to those people.
Oh, yes.
And also thank you to the people who send us things to our P.O. box, which is listed in the description of this episode. Feel free to send us things that are not poisonous. Moving on, projects of interest. The Mastermind.
Yes, Kelly Reichardt's, I think it's shooting in Connecticut or something like that, starting next month. And Josh O'Connor from Challengers, and who you just saw in the film Lee, is headlining it. And apparently it's in the vein of her 2014 film Night Moves with, was that Dakota Fanning and Jesse Eisenberg? Anyway, love Kelly Reichardt, so that is very exciting.
And then, is this the Crawl I like?
It's the Crawl you like.
Oh, so Alexander Aja is doing Crawl 2?
Yes.
Yeah. I don't like to use the word excited, but I'm looking forward to
Apparently that made enough money to justify it. And he's been doing press, obviously, for his new Halle Berry movie, Never Let Go. And
which we have a review for
yes,
on YouTube.
But you have not seen it yet. And I liked overall in this little way. But I like Aja, but Crawl is agreed good. I forgot that Tarantino had put it on his list of like 10 best films that year.
Okay, on our Patreon, recently we reviewed Cecil B. Demented, Cecil, and The Devils. So if people want to give us money, they can listen to those. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, there are entries in the obituary section. Catherine Grant, who was also known as Catherine Crosby.
Yeah, she was married to Bing Crosby.
Oh.
Who I never was really a big fan of. But
well, she's gone.
She's gone. I think she was like 90, though.
What do we know
her think from? As a kid, I'm sure I saw Seven Voyages of Sinbad, but Anatomy of a Murder is probably more... Well, she's a small part in that. But yeah, I mean, I don't know that I would even recognize her if I randomly put on something from her era and she was in it. But yeah, she died.
And then, of course, Tito Jackson died.
Yes.
A member of the Jackson family, part of the Jackson 5. Glad he died before he heard his sister talk crazy. But apparently he had a heart attack, which resulted in him being pronounced dead at the hospital.
He was sloughing off his mortal coil, yes.
But yeah, I mean, of course, like very recognizable to me. I remember watching the Jackson 5 cartoon as a kid and having a Jackson 5 lunch pail for some reason. Oh. But yeah, of course, a big fan of his family's work overall. Also, so I did know this, that he has 3 sons, Taj, Terrell, and TJ, and they made up the group 3T. Who I
vaguely remember that.
Who I remember, and yeah. So, but what I was going to say is I didn't know that the mother of those boys was found dead floating in the swimming pool, and that a LA area businessman was later convicted of killing her. So now I want to like research that because that sounds kind of crazy.
What was the motive for that?
Right. I'm so curious about that. But yeah, he was 70. And it's just hard to, like when you feel like you know people and
yeah, you grew up with them really, essentially.
So Michael dying, and then not that Joseph Jackson is someone I had any thoughts about, but him dying, now Tito, and then I'm assuming Catherine, would be the next, and that will be sad, but
yeah, I always think of it's inevitable.
Okay, the secret film this week was my choice, and I chose the 1985 American made-for-television film Playing with Fire, starring a Gary Coleman in his first dramatic role.
Yeah,
it also features Cicely Tyson. Superfly, Ron O'Neal,
yes,
and good old Yaphet Kotto.
Yes.
In a film that is dizzyingly bad.
It's pretty bad.
The only reason I watched it is because one day I think I was in Toronto.
You were in Toronto.
And as you're apt to do, you like to send me pictures of things you've discovered. It used to be a picture of this movie poster. And a lot of things don't stay in my mind very long, but this movie stayed in my mind for damn near 2 weeks because when you said, "Hey, dummy, what's our secret film?" I said, "Oh, how about that Gary Coleman Playing with Fire movie?" And man, I mean, I think this will make for an entertaining review, but this shit was garbage.
It is garbage, yes. But what a great cast, though.
And I'm going to read the IMDb premise that's listed currently because it's a little shady. This is what it says. And I'm reading it how it's written. Made for TV film starring a not so young Gary Coleman as a teenage arsonist. The authorities, friends, and neighbors warn his absentee parents until it is too late. So these are not complete sentences, but um, it's shady because he's 17
Right.
during the making of the film. His character's 15. But what I think is funny is that Gary Coleman looks old. Like, he looks like he's in his 40s. And he's dressed like he's in his 50s.
It's like watching that horror movie Orphan.
Yeah,
Where it's like, you are not a child.
No. But then he was a child during the making of it.
But he doesn't have the comportment of a child.
And I was reading that he had severe health issues when he was born. Specifically, I think he required a kidney transplant and, the immunosuppressive drugs like steroids that they give during or for like after you get a transplant caused his growth to be stunted.
Yeah.
So that's why he was 4'8". But he's terrible in this movie.
Yeah, I mean, he's the manual fire starter. I want a Stephen King version.
The story is so basic. So Gary Coleman plays this 15-year-old who has a broken family because the dad has separated from the mom. The dad is, of course, Ron O'Neal, and the mom is Cicely Tyson. Mm-hmm. And he has siblings. They seem to have a nice life because the dad seems to be a successful general contractor. Cicely Tyson's dressed like she should be in Working Girl. And they don't seem to have financial issues. They have a nice house. But it's clear Gary Coleman feels like abandoned.
Yes.
Now that his parents are separated. And the film immediately starts with them, like the family in the front yard, and mom just got home from like the grocery store or something. And she picks up the smallest baby, and in one arm has her baby. In the other arm in their other hand, she's holding a cigarette. And she's about to light that cigarette right at her baby's face when something calls her attention, and she puts the cigarette and the lighter down. And then Gary Coleman just all of a sudden grabs the lighter. Mm-hmm. And then for the next 80 minutes, proceeds to light anything on fire when he has to deal with something he doesn't want to deal with. Uh-huh. Like, at first, we see that his dad bought him like a fancy basketball. He's also friends with like the cool hunky kid in school, which seems so unbelievable. And then the cool popular pretty girl is also his friend. These two kids seem like they would try to stand as far away from Gary Coleman as possible. And not because he's a little black thing, but because he just seems really annoying. But the first time it happens is the male friend is like, oh, cool, new basketball. Let me try it. And Gary wants to play. But he says, you can't play. You're just not, it doesn't make sense for you to play with us because you can't play against us. So Gary gets mad and lights the trash can on fire. And immediately a full fire department response occurs. Like immediately. Mm-hmm. Like we see the trash can light on fire, and then the fire trucks come and the trash can is still burning at the same level. And then Yaphet Kotto shows up and questions the boys and is immediately suspicious.
He's suspicious of Mike, the taller friend, who looks very much... That actor is Tom Ridley.
He reminded me of Patrick Dempsey in that one movie Our Friend Likes.
Can't Buy Me Love.
Yeah.
I was thinking Vincent Spano. Right?
That's probably a better reference.
In fact, because we only see him in profile for a couple shots in the beginning, and I was like, is that Vincent? But yeah, but Yaphet thinks that it's him. We're
going to talk about that, but we just get a series of Gary Coleman lighting things on fire when he gets upset, and then Yaphet Kotto, who is the chief, like the fire chief, who seems to have nothing but time to try to mentor Gary Coleman.
Yes.
When I believe that he should have just had Gary Coleman's ass arrested for arson. But it all culminates in Gary Coleman lighting his home on fire. Because he lights like the school on fire, like the exterior. He lights like his neighbor's front yard on fire. He lights random Oh no, actually, the first thing he lights on fire, isn't it like the coat rack?
Yes, at home.
But anyway, he lights the family home on fire, and I do have to say, because they look like practical effects, because it was 1985, it did look really scary.
They set something on fire, yeah.
Like we see Gary Coleman lighting clothes on fire and throwing them, so it looked like he actually did that. But he damn near kills his sister. So for the rest of the movie, she's in the hospital recovering, and then we get Yaphet Kotto again trying to mentor Gary Coleman, takes him to a burn unit to see like this is what happens when you play with fire, and then encourages Gary Coleman to let his parents have it, literally. Like, you need to sit your family down and tell them how they're hurting you, and that's the only way you're going to heal from this. And so we get a scene where Gary Coleman sets his parents down with his other siblings and basically like reads them their rights. He actually says to his parents, "Can't you stop hurting us? Can't you stop hurting yourselves?" And then the dad goes, "You're right." And then he's healed. And then we see that now Gary Coleman is a mentor to other little arsons.
Some other little white boy.
Some little white boy who likes to burn shit up. Gary Coleman's walking him around like, you don't want to do this. While Yaphet Kotto is standing in the background looking like the only magical Negro.
He is giving magical Negro, yes.
And then the end, so after the film ends, we get a PSA from Gary Coleman, like saying, "Hi, this is Gary Coleman. Juvenile arson is the fastest growing crime in America." While he has a sweater wrapped around his shoulders. The end. The best part about this movie is that it's available on YouTube.
I think it wasn't available for a long time.
It's high enough quality that it's bearable. Yes. The closed captions are interesting, which we'll talk about. The script.
Every time Yaphet says arson, it says Austin.
But the best part is we watched it on YouTube for free, and the best part of the experience was whomever ripped this from their VHS and uploaded it to YouTube included all of the commercial breaks.
Yes.
And do you agree with me that the best part of watching this were all the commercials?
Well, it's just like unbelievable how things were marketed to us.
Yeah, I enjoyed watching the commercials way more than this movie.
The people showering with soap and all the cereal. My God, the cereal.
Diet Coke, Diet Dr. Pepper, lots of like GM products, Oldsmobile, yeah.
McDonald's and Burger King.
That's right. All detergent.
Lots of people had headaches and needed aspirin, and they needed it coated with something.
Coated with something so that you can swallow it more easily.
What's wrong with people? Just give me the goddamn medicine.
John McEnroe selling razor blades for men who have sensitive skin, but not like him because he's not a bitch.
Like my skin's normal.
Yeah, I have normal skin, but for all you sensitive types. Okay. I have a lot of notes, so can I just start going through them?
Get it.
So the writing. So halfway through, I'm like, I can picture what the person who wrote this looks like because it feels so out of touch, even for 1985. It sounds like if AI would have existed and someone in Poland said, write me a script about a little black boy who is an arson. And then the AI in 1985 wrote the script in Polish, and then Google translated it into English. Because there are so many moments when not only is the dialogue stupid and feels like these are not words children would say, but it's like not even complete sentences. And then you have Cicely Tyson and Yaphet Kotto like uttering these words that just seem like, when you read them, did they make sense to you? Because
well, yeah, I mean, and then you looked at the screenwriters, Lou Hunter.
Well, didn't I say to you, this looks like some 50-year-old like white man who had never been around children wrote this.
Yes. And
then sure enough, I looked up his picture and it's like, oh, this is exactly who I had in my head.
Yes, and then what was interesting to learn is that he taught screenwriting at UCLA, and a large number of his students went on to write many Oscar-nominated films.
It's very impressive. So Lou Hunter, one statistic is that over half of the Oscar-winning scripts over the past 20 years have been written by students of his. And then I read another statistic that said it was something crazy, like in 1998, 9 of the 10 top grossing films were written by students of his program.
Yeah, that's very
at
obvious.
UCLA.
Yeah.
And then you look at Lou Hunter, the screenwriter for this film, you look at his credentials, they all look like shit movies. And I can't believe that this film is the last film he wrote.
Yes.
So you can't even say this was his first script.
And I want to say they were all for television.
This is his final script, and this thing is so poorly written. The basis is like, oh, this kid with absentee parents is acting out by lighting fires. And the only way for him to stop is to express his feelings. There are no repercussions for what he's done. Why is the fire chief not engaging law enforcement?
Well, right.
He has caused thousands and thousands of dollars of damage. He has nearly killed people. He set his neighbor's yard on fire.
Mm-hmm.
And this is after he has set his own home on fire, put his sister in critical condition. The fire chief is still talking to him like, I got to get through to you, buddy. What?
You're not a loser. That's what he said. And the sister, played by Cherie Johnson.
Who I know from Punky Brewster.
Uh-huh. She's cute.
She's very cute.
I want to bet that Mr. Hunter's script was not written with black people in mind at all. I'm willing to bet that Gary Coleman was cast.
And then they had to...
And then, of course, that changed the rest of everything else. It is interesting to see that it is contained within the black community, this problem, almost exclusively, except for a white therapist. So it's interesting seeing that this Yaphet Kotto is trying to get through to these parents in a way that is seen, it's like one positive element, is a way that is more beneficial than their interaction with the white therapist, who's played by Salome Jens, who I guess was married to Anthony Zerbe.
Oh, we're going to get to her. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about these performances. So let's start with Gary Coleman, his first dramatic role. Mm-hmm. He cannot act.
No, he can't sit still.
He doesn't know what to do with his body. Yeah. You know what he reminded me of Sherman Hemsley. Like how Sherman would have that walk where his arms flail, yeah, and he kind of is just like gesticulating, yeah, at any given moment. That's what Gary Coleman's doing. Like it's almost like he was told, don't look into the camera. So he's doing everything. It's like Stevie Wonder, just like looking around except the camera.
I mean, he's cute, but
I don't think he's cute.
There's a disturbing quality.
He's creepy because he, we'll get to it, but there are a couple scenes where his father, Superfly, is talking to him like he's a grown-ass man. And I kept laughing, thinking it's probably because he looks like a grown-ass man.
Right.
He looks like a 40-year-old man. Mm-hmm. And he's dressed like a 40-year-old man. He talks like a 40-year-old man. It's so strange. But yeah, his performance is terrible.
It is.
I was a big fan of Different Strokes because, of course, problematic person of the week, Janet Jackson, played Charlene on Different Strokes. So I was obsessed with that show and would watch it, even though she's not on all seasons, I would watch it anytime it's on TV. And Gary Coleman is just only good for one-liners. What you're talking about, Willis, like that's the energy he brings. Yes. But then in this movie, because it's dramatic, he can't do that. So it's almost like he doesn't know how to speak normally.
It's still, yes, it makes it feel kind of I think halfway through this, I was like, this feels like the Upshaws without any lick of comedy.
Mm-hmm.
Like everything is, the messages are very
okay, Cicely Tyson is in the thing looking like the fourth Pointer Sister.
Okay, so you need to look up Alfre Woodard's hair in the film Extremities, because
hold on.
To me, in my mind's eye, it is almost exactly the same as
Alfre Woodard Extremities.
Fawcett.
Let me see here.
No, I mean it's not.
Well, you know what? Okay. Yes, that's accurate. Okay. If people have seen the Tyler Perry film A Fall from Grace, mm-hmm, the antagonist, the main guy, that like sort of flat top he had, that terrible wig everyone made fun of.
Yeah.
Imagine if he had relaxed that hairdo. So it was straight.
Relaxed flat top. Mm-hmm.
So it's like if you mix that with like Grace Jones vibes and a Pointer Sister, that's Cicely Tyson in this movie.
Yes.
She she, for 1985, she was very fly.
Mm-hmm.
It just doesn't fit Cicely Tyson's personality, the style.
Right.
Like on another woman, it would have been real fly. I think Cicely Tyson's acting style is very like
Well, she's
everything. Like everything I'm saying is very regal and profound. And
she's always got a gravitas about
gravitas, that's the word. And I don't think it makes sense for this character at all in this stupid TV movie. So she's laughable.
Well, because I don't believe Cicely Tyson is a distracted mother.
No,
she seems very with it and serious, and
you're right,
you're not going over on her
because she actually has to say it sometimes.
Yes.
And it's like, oh, are you trying to convince yourself and us that you are having a problem right now? Because you don't seem like you're not put together. Right. And I don't know why you can't focus on this little badass kitty you are. Right. Okay, Ron O'Neal. I don't think I've ever seen a black man with a comb over. So he does get this distinction in this movie.
I am a fan of Ron O'Neal, but more like Superfly era, because he was pretty fly in the 70s. But yeah, the hair choices are...
And then Yaphet Kotto, and then they have him in these white clothes. Like he's wearing white shirts and white... Yes. And then his skin tone is so dark, and then the way it's shot, he just looks crazy. And then the ADR is not doing him any favors, but he sounds so stiff because this dialogue, I'm sure, was hard to work with.
The dialogue's terrible. It's just, I don't know, it doesn't work for anybody in this movie.
The first time Gary Coleman lights a fire, it's a jacket in the coat rack by the front door. And so he's playing with this lighter he took from his mom. And it's a fancy lighter that he uses throughout the movie, and the mom never notices it's gone.
Right.
It's not like her cheap blue Bic.
Her Bic, yeah.
Right. It looks like it's an engraved gold-plated lighter. And she never asks where my lighter is or mentions that it's gone.
It gets a wicked flame going, yeah.
And the first time he lights it in the house, right before he burns that jacket, the dog
terrorizes that poor dog.
The dog knows that there's a problem with this fire.
Like, this child is a bad seed. This is Patty McCormick.
Yeah, I was thinking that or wouldn't it have been fun if they would have been in the same era to have like that young Macaulay Culkin against Gary Coleman?
Oh my God. Yes.
But when he lights that coat on fire and Cicely sees it, the way she knocks it out the front door.
And then hoses it down. And she's like, what happened?
I just can't say enough how Gary was barely tolerable in Different Strokes. He is just unforgivable in this movie. He's just stomping around in every scene. And then because he's, I don't know that he qualifies as a little person, but he is small, and he looks small compared to his classmates. And then the fact that they pair him with who look like the two cool kids in school. And then the girl seems to kind of have a crush on him.
This white girl who looks like she's straight out of something like Step by Step. Or...
She looks like she would be like Brooke Shields' best friend in a movie.
Yeah.
Like, she does not look like she'd be checking for Gary Coleman.
Although, after watching this, I've never seen On the Right Track from a couple years earlier where he's a homeless shoe shine boy living in a railway station. That sounds like a must-see to me.
Well, now I'm afraid to pick another Gary Coleman movie, so you can do it. So then when he lights the trash can on fire after the basketball incident, his friend, what was his friend's name again? Mike.
Mm-hmm.
Their interaction was so weird. Again, every lick of dialogue from every character just sounds like aliens.
Yes.
Okay, so after the trash can scene, Yaphet Kotto shows up at Mike's house and intimidates him, forces him to empty his pockets. This feels so illegal. This feels like, why is the fire chief so some kids lit a trash can on fire and you are stalking?
Why is this fire chief doing social work house call visits?
Shouldn't he be contacting someone that's not him, like the school, law enforcement? Someone should be dealing with this, not Yaphet Kotto just walking into this boy's garage while he's drinking a beer, and we're told that they're 15. So crazy. When he sets the neighbor's yard on fire, we see that it just so happens that Cicely Tyson has just driven home, and she stops her car in the middle of the street to grab Gary Coleman and call 911. And then when Yaphet Kotto shows up, he's like, hey, this is the second time I've caught your son at the scene of a fire, and I'm concerned. And of course, Cicely Tyson is defending him relentlessly, which there's no context to why she wouldn't think that her son is having behavioral issues. Shouldn't the film have been, because this was a made for TV movie, and to me, made for TV movies were about like educating families. So wouldn't it have been like, this is how you see the signs of like a child calling out for help?
And Yaphet is not coming at her disrespectfully,
Not at all,
or aggressively even. In fact, he says we need to talk later, I believe.
So then Ron O'Neal and Cicely Tyson have to go to the school because Gary Coleman's having issues at work, I think, because he has like a science teacher who's real over the top, and she gives him detention or sends him to the principal.
They're dissecting starfish.
They're dissecting starfish, and Mike throws a starfish at the Brooke Shields girl, and the teacher thinks it was Gary Coleman. So, of course, he's irate because he didn't do it. And then his parents have to show up at the principal's office, and they're complaining that they had to take time off from work. I thought that scene was so terrible.
Yes.
Because it's just like, what are you trying to say about these parents? Like, it's so heavy-handed that they're like not present in his life. We get it. Okay. It's during this principal scene that Gary's like looking out the window, and the like landscape people have like one of those lawnmowers you ride, and there's a huge gas tank in the back. And Gary Coleman runs outside in broad daylight during school hours, steals the gas tank, hides it behind a bush to then come back later, douse the yard at the school with gas, and light it up.
Flammable materials.
He is a for real arsonist.
And he's full blown. Okay.
Yeah, he's beyond like, we might be able to steer you in the right direction. Lights the school on fire, and then he waits in the wings to see firefighters put it out. And Yaphet Kotto catches his ass.
Well, he sees him flee.
Well, he sees him.
Yeah. Still doesn't call the cops.
Still, now you have 3 incidents where you saw this boy at the scene of a fire, and you still don't engage the authorities, who are not you, because clearly you can't do shit. Okay, then we get to this teen party. Can you describe this party?
Like no teen party that has ever occurred, okay? That is put on by Mike. He is interacting with children of all ages at this teen party. There are no adults. No, they're doing things with Oreos, and he's telling them to not stay too late and get home safely. This is not happening with teenagers, let me tell you.
And while this party's happening, guess who's alone in a bedroom? Gary Coleman and his little girlfriend. What's her name?
Pamela, played by Tammy Lauren.
Did she end up becoming...
She was in stuff. I think she was in Wishmaster. Anyway,
do you believe that those two would be canoodling on the bed?
No.
And then he's about to kiss her when Mike busts down the door talking about, what y'all doing? And of course, Gary gets mad, runs out the front door, and what does he do?
There's a stack of newspapers, like some neighborhoods I've seen in Boyle Heights.
He ran to that pile of papers to light it on fire the way, like, sometimes when you drive home and you've been stuck in traffic and you have to pee, and you immediately like run past me and go to the bathroom. That's how he ran to go. And then he just lights it on fire in front of everyone and then runs away. And then we get a really ridiculous moment where Mike is yelling at him, "You're a loser, loser, loser. You're a loser, loser," like over and over again.
Like this this is going at warp speed. It's not to somewhere nonsensical. Yes.
Before this incident happens, when he's on the bed with Pamela, he asks her, "Why am I always so mad?" And she responds, "Maybe because endings aren't always happy, no matter how much you want them to be." The fuck is you talking about, girl? Like, what? That's my one F word for this. Sorry. So then after this party, he runs away. And then we cut to him the next day sleeping in like a Volkswagen minivan in Pamela's backyard as she's bringing him breakfast. And he's in the van sleeping like, he looks like he looks like a middle-aged man.
Yes.
Because he's wearing one of those white ribbed tank tops, tucked in with a belly, and he just gets up like, ugh, yes. What a long, tedious day. Like,
and then his dad pops up before he can have whatever she made him. And
Pamela
offers him food too.
So then Ron O'Neal and Gary Coleman have a talk, man to man, because they both look like they're 45.
Mm-hmm.
And the dad proceeds to tell him that he shouldn't have married his mom, that they only got married because she got pregnant with his little short ass.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, Gary Coleman gets upset. But I was howling in my head because it's like, this is so inappropriate that a father would tell his young son this. But then all I could think of is these look like two grown-ass men talking.
Well, and then Cicely gets to go out on a date.
Oh my God. With a man named Harry Brockington. This black man. Harry Brockington comes over.
Uh-huh.
And what happens?
Well, first of all, Gary tries to shut him out the house, which they aren't having. They don't even have a plan, though. She's like, maybe let's go to a movie.
He doesn't just try to shut him out, though. He starts arguing about this man.
So then he leaves. So Ron O'Neal shows up at about midnight. Gary Coleman is waiting up for his mama to come home. He's like, where's your mom? Her car's never parked in the garage or something. And he's like, well, she's on a date. Well, he says it's with a friend. And then there's another very awkward and appropriate conversation between father and son.
Yeah, where Ron O'Neal is telling Gary Coleman, you scamming me. You scamming me. You know your mama's out with this man. Why are you scamming me? Talking to him like he's his drinking buddy.
Right.
Who knew that his girlfriend cheated on him.
Or his wingman, yeah.
But again, it looks like two grown-ass men talking. But before that happens, Gary is at home trying to talk to his sister, like trying to school her on being a good kid when you're the only bad kid in this house. Can we talk about the score?
Oh, yeah. I mean,
it's doing a lot of work. Okay.
During the scenes where there's a blaze going, you would think it was an inferno.
Oh, Backdraft.
Yeah.
This is Backdraft, the prequel. When Gary sets the house on fire, he's starting by setting like individual garments. And one of the shirts he lights on fire explodes.
That's not polyester.
What was that shirt made?
That was something man-made.
Or was it doused in like your mama's perfume and that worked as a what do you call it when something accelerator?
Yes.
That perfume worked as an accelerator. Again, now this is after he has damn near killed his sister. She is in the hospital in critical condition. We have Yaphet Kotto still trying to mentor this kid and prescribes him a therapist. Mm-hmm. Literally, he says, he writes down on paper, I recommend that you go see this therapist. Am I crazy? Shouldn't the authorities be involved? Shouldn't this little boy be like the family should be questioned? He should be taken into custody, like child protective.
Granted, things were a lot more fast and loose in 1985, but yes.
I think the best scene in the movie is when the family goes to therapy.
Well, on the way to therapy, Cicely's driving and says, therapy is not the answer. We need to look inside ourselves.
Therapy is not the answer. We've got to look into ourselves. And then proceeds to argue with the therapist.
The driveway lady, yeah.
Which leads to Cicely having a breakdown and the therapist having to console her. Mm-hmm. But I thought that was the funniest scene because it's so ridiculous. Like, your child is an arson who burned down your house and damn near killed your daughter, who is in critical condition. This wasn't a near miss. Well, this wasn't like he was playing with a gun and the gun went off.
Ron O'Neal's like, he didn't really hurt anybody. It's like, your other child's in the hospital.
In critical condition. It's like she's unconscious and your house burned down.
Right.
In addition to all the other damage that he's caused that the dad has agreed to pay for.
He's like, I don't want my child to be treated like this.
Oh, it's so crazy. So then they get back home and Ron O'Neal and Cicely Tyson are fighting, and the fight culminates in the dad saying, because the whole idea is that they've been trying to co-parent and try to work things out because of the kid, mm-hmm. who Gary Coleman's character's name is David. So we hear the dad go, David's just not enough anymore. And the look on Gary Coleman's face when he hears that, you know what? I should have taken video of it. It's priceless.
Well, you can go back on.
This is, when you think of really bad TV movies from the 80s, this is like top tier nonsense.
I think this was a holy grail for some people, at least based on what I was reading on Letterboxd. It was not available for a long time anywhere.
Would I recommend this? I mean, I think if you're interested in sitting with a couple people and just being silly and making fun of something stupid and then enjoying some commercials,
Yes.
then I would look up Playing with Fire 1985 on YouTube.
And if you are a fan of Sicily, Ron, or Yaphet, I mean, and are completists, by all means see this. I don't think if you've never seen them in anything, this is not the place to start.
Well, I think I agree. If you're really into any of these people, you should watch it like any other entertainer. But these are disappointing performances and a horrible script.
It is. You know what I appreciated about the commercials, because this was part of, it aired on NBC, apparently part of their movies on Sunday, matinees on Sunday or whatever. I like that they said all of their names, because these people were all, Sicily had already been Oscar nominated. Yaphet was, in a ton of integral films in the 70s, probably the biggest being Alien. But Gary Coleman, these were all like, the people knew who these people were. These were very notable actors.
Well, what would you give Playing with Fire?
I think 0.5, because it doesn't do one goddamn thing successfully.
I agree. It can't be worse. 0.5 out of 5. Is there anything else you'd like to say? What are you reading?
Oh my God, I've read a few things. The Fountainhead, which I read in preparation for Brady Corbett's The Brutalist, which I wish you liked reading, because I would love to discuss that book with you. Oh my God. But I think that I'm going to put in my own Patreon request for us to review the 40s film, which I've never seen.
Why don't you just talk about books and we can put them on Patreon?
I don't know.
I think you should. I think you should start like making notations in the books you read to bring up things, and we can record those and you can post them on Patreon.
Okay, sure.
People have asked about you to talk about the books you read.
Okay. Well, we'll put a pin in that then, because I read several many things.
You sound kind of excited about it.
I like to read.
I like bread. I love bread.
I love bread. Deep fried butter. I love to read good.
I wish I could read gooder. I always have to tell the story about one time I worked with this lady, and she was talking about something, and we didn't work very closely together. We just worked in the same space, and she asked me about what I was reading, and I told her I didn't read very well. And she brought me a pamphlet on adult illiteracy, which I found funny, because if I can't read, what am I going to do with this pamphlet, girl?
Oh, wow.
Anyway, are you all done?
Yeah.
Ta-ta.